You've enjoyed tons of brilliant games like Uncharted 4, Battlefield 1 and Doom in 2016. Unfortunately, there are also a few games we'd rather forget about. We've got to say that it wasn't hard to fill this list because the bottom of the video games league is quite messy and full of abominations. Here are our top 10 worst games of 2016.
Check this out.
Mighty No. 9 should have been the Mega Man game we didn't get the last couple of years. The project was helmed by Inafune, who was one of the creators of the Mega Man series. Mighty No. 9 was funded by fans through a Kickstarter project. Although the development of the game was quite a bumpy ride, gamers were expecting a happy end. Unfortunately, the game was met with some very negative criticism and couldn't live up to the hype. The graphics looked terrible, and some of the versions suffered from heavy technical issues. The game was full of poorly executed ideas. Up until now, the handheld versions of the game haven't even been released yet. But it may be better to leave it that way.
Step out of it! Now!
Back! Phew! Am I glad to see you.
The amount of snowboarding games being released has been quite low the last few years. With Ubisoft's Steep coming out this year, publisher Maxim Games must have thought this was the perfect opportunity to grab some quick cash. At least, that's the only thing that comes to mind while playing Mark McMorris's Infinite Air. The game is graphically unimpressive and is not much more than a full-priced mobile game ported to consoles. Infinite Air's controls are very stiff, and there's just no fun to be had with this game. And who the hell is Mark McMorris anyway? Maybe it's time for EA to breathe some new life into the genre because this effort is quite an embarrassment.
Did that break? Did I hear a break?
Dudes, check it out! It's the foot!
Platinum Games is known for making awesome action games, but once in a while they tend to deliver a genuine turd. We all remember the horrible Legend of Korra game, and their latest Transformers one wasn't that great. However, this game is probably the worst of the bunch. Almost every gamer was looking forward to a new proper Turtles game, but Mutants in Manhattan was just horrible.
Crud.
It is very not cool, Michelangelo.
It doesn't even contain a local multiplayer mode, which should have been the main selling point. You do get to play the game with 3 AI buddies or your online friends though. At least you won't suffer for long, because the game's only 4 hours long. We guess you really must love the heroes in a half shell if you buy this piece of junk.
'Cause Bebop's the best there is!
There's no Iron Team and all the rest of that bullshit. Go check it out.
Homefront Revolution had a rough development ride. The game was victim of THQ's bankruptcy and got picked up by Deep Silver, resulting in the fact that 3 different studios worked on it over the years. Quite a bumpy ride, eh? It would have been a miracle if this game actually turned out to be any good, but of course it didn't. The concept might have been interesting, but the story that unfolds is kind of boring. Homefront is full of repetitive missions, and we encountered a lot of bugs in our limited time with the game. At least there is the fun distraction of playing a few levels of Time Splitters 2 at the arcade machine. You know your game is crappy when players would rather play another game inside your game. Did you know this utterly terrible game called Umbrella Corps is actually part of the Resident Evil series? Well, you probably did, but it's time to forget all that because this game is just an insult to the whole franchise. The third-person shooter is set in the Resident Evil universe, but has very little to do with the main games. It reminds us of Operation Raccoon City, a terrible Resident Evil spin-off released a few years ago. The game has clunky controls and a short delay in aiming, which is a huge problem for any online shooter. It's crazy that the famous Japanese magazine Famitsu even gave this game a rating of 36 out of 40 points. Almost every Western media outlet slammed the game for being a huge piece of crap. Hopefully, the upcoming Resident Evil 7 will restore the franchise to its former glory. "2016 was the year the PlayStation VR got released, and it's the first opportunity for consumers to experience proper VR console games in their living room. Harmonix, masters of the music game genre, also tried to play along with the VR hype. Of course, most of the released titles were modest at best, but Harmonix Music VR takes the biscuit when it comes to being the worst VR experience at launch. It's a collection of 4 different VR music experiences, but none of them are actually any good. The fact that this package costs more than $20 is quite the embarrassment. Mainly because a substantial part of the package can't even be called a game. The beach and the trip sections are hardly interactive and just plain boring. This is not what we want out of virtual reality experiences at all. Okay, we know that this game didn't officially come out in the West, but the game is import-friendly and playable on our systems. But don't get your hopes up, because the 3rd installment in the Dead or Alive Extreme series is even worse than the first 2 ones. Fortune is extremely light when it comes to content. There are a few mini-games that can be played, and there are a couple of modes in which you can look at the ladies in almost any way you want. But that's about it. Fortune is nothing more than a fan service to gamers who like looking at virtual women. So besides being a very relaxing experience, Fortune simply isn't worth the money.
Feel my wrath. Full spectrum hit.
2016 was the year of the 3rd Ghostbusters movie, but we almost forgot that it was accompanied by a disaster of a video game. Strangely, the game wasn't even directly based on the all-female reboot. Activision spent almost no money on the marketing, so many people didn't even know it came out.
Put to rest.
We can't blame them, because developer Fireforge Games did an awful job at making the game. Ghostbusters has an okay-ish art style, but it only goes downhill from there. It just feels like a cheap attempt at making a dual-stick shooter. The worst thing of all is that this terrible excuse of a game was full price at release. Just play the 2009 Ghostbusters game if you desperately want to call someone to check out something strange in your neighborhood.
Slam him!
Slam him down.
Slam that ghost! Slammer time! Go slam!
Slam that plasm.
Dino Dinny's Kickoff is a brilliant football game, or at least it was almost 30 years ago. The Revival Edition falls a bit short in 2016. You play this game with a bird's eye view, just like the old sensible soccer games. Unfortunately, it's such a mess that probably no one will ever enjoy it. The game's graphics are just awful, the menus are badly designed, and the atmosphere of the football pitch is nowhere to be found in this game. And of course, it doesn't contain any license whatsoever, so you'll be seeing a lot of shitty made-up names. In fact, Dino Dinny's Kickoff Revival just looks like a very poorly designed Flash game.
Verdammt!
Cartoon Network Battle Chasers looks like a digital download-only title, but it got a fully fledged physical release. Of course, we choose gameplay over graphics, but Battle Crashes has neither. In this 2D beat-em-up, you control one of the Cartoon Network's characters and fight yourself through dull environments from different series. The gameplay is boring as hell, the soundtrack is very annoying, and the levels just look very empty. Characters from new favorite shows like Adventure Time and the regular show are represented in the game, but unfortunately, no classic characters like Johnny Bravo or the Powerpuff Girls are featured. What's left is one of the worst licensed games which almost reaches Aquaman levels of quality. Yep, real gamers know how bad that is. What's the worst game you've played this year? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel.
Ooh, that did not look good.